Welcome to Phil Wilson Chats with Celebrities. And here is your host, Phil Wilson.
From a talent contest held in a cinema on the King's Road in Chelsea to then performing on stage alongside Cliff Richard, Billy Fury, Joe Brown and many more, would Eden Kane be a name as he still is today if he had not taken part in the contest? The original teen idol, Eden Kane, is back with a new single, a little bit of rock and roll, and Eden is joining me now to tell us all about his career in his brand new single. How are you doing, Eden?
I'm very well. Thank you, Phil.
No problem at all. It's just fabulous to have you on the show. Yeah, after hearing your single, I was thinking, this is absolutely magical, and I just can't believe it, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I was hoping to get that reaction because, as a so-called songwriter, not of great note, like my brother Peter, but I
Yes.
also have written a few songs here and there. But I always said to myself, I've got to write one kind of decent rock and roll song. I mean,
Yeah.
just because I love the music and I grew up with it, so I just got to write one day. And when I came up with this one, I thought this is close. So
It definitely is. It definitely is. And we're going to talk about your brand new single as well a little bit later on. But I must say that you were born Richard Graham Sarstedt in New
yeah,
Delhi, India in 1940 to parents Coral and Albert, and grew up with your brothers Peter and Clive, sister Lorraine, and two half sisters, Pam and
yeah,
June. What
right.
is your earliest memory of starting life in India?
Well, my earliest memory would be when I was very young. In those days, it was the thing to send the boys and often the girls to a boarding school at a very early age. So I was 2 years old. No, I'm kidding. I was 6 years old. Yeah, when they sent me to a boarding school, and they put me on a train. There were also people there to kind of supervise, but you get on there with my tuck box,
Yeah.
as they used to call it, my tuck box.
Yeah.
And off I went. And so that was one of the early memories of being packed off to a boarding school when I was 6 years old. Yeah.
And you actually attended Sherwood College, which is a
Right.
boarding school
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
still today,
I
and it's
know.
located in Nainital,
Yeah.
Uttarakhand in India, if I'm saying that right. And it's
Yeah.
known for its
Yeah.
picturesque location in the
Oh,
Shivalik Ranges. I can't believe it's still
yeah.
around today. It looks lovely.
I can't either. I mean, I've been getting news. I mean, someone phoned me. I was a couple of years ago and says,
Yeah.
I went to the same school, mate. I said, what?
Yeah.
I said, you're joking. I said, I thought there was only one left alive.
Yeah.
And he said, no, 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 no. He said, plus Sherwood College has got this newsletter. They've got like a little booklet that they send out every month or whatever it is,
Right.
telling you
Right.
what's going on up there in Sherwood College, which is amazing.
Wow. Wow. And it actually
I'm no
looks
doubt,
so lovely.
no,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It is amazing place, and I must admit, sort of being away from home at that early age, it wasn't too thrilling. I thought, oh,
No.
no, this is not good. But then at some point, my brother joined me, and that sort of helped me as he got a little bit older enough to join, and so that helped a lot. My
And
brother Peter, yeah,
your brother Peter, yes, yes, who
yeah.
we'll be talking about a little bit later on. Now, what was your favorite subject at Sherwood College? Was it music?
It wasn't music because we didn't really. I wasn't exposed to music that much, except for hymns.
Yes, yes, a lot
But
of them.
but that's about it. I was in the. I guess at some point I was in the choir. Very. I think that happened maybe a couple of years later. So in those early days, I'm talking about 19 in the 40s. I
Yes,
wasn't influenced. I became my influences came from the American music of the day in the 50s. People
yeah,
like like country songs, like K Star singing "The Wheel of Fortune,"
Wow,
and
yes.
then there was the big band stuff, which was also very very popular in India. It was imported from America, so it was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what kind of music was around when you were growing up? Was it the big band stuff,
It was the
particularly
big band.
in the
Yeah.
Indian culture?
Well, in the Indian culture, we mainly listened on a 78, record,
Right.
or on the
Yeah.
radio, his master's voice, and
Yes, yes.
we'd be huddled around the radio as we were even further down the road when I got to England. We were huddled around listening to the Goon Show,
Yes, yes.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So in India it was very similar. We had a gramophone, and my sisters, both Pam and June, were a little bit older than me, about like 9 years older than me.
Yeah.
So they were into music. So I was exposed to that sort of big band stuff, Glenn
Yeah.
Miller, and the early American blues,
Wow.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds great.
Lots of great music on the 78s there. Yes. I'm
Oh
collecting
yeah,
them at the minute. I'm collecting them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Glenn Miller is in there as well. Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I think
Yeah,
that'll be the next trend that'll start. You see, it's whether you can look after them well enough. You see, because they're
I know.
obviously a lot of them are 100-year-old.
I know. I know. I mean, some of those songs like Pennsylvania 6500, and I'm going, what? What does that mean? It just
Yeah,
sounded good. So, what is that? Is that a
that's right.
prison? What is that? What is that
Yeah,
thing?
yeah,
Because usually it's all sort of chain gang songs and stuff like that. If you're going to listen
yeah.
to other stuff,
That's
But
right.
I thought, what on earth? And finally, I found out where Pennsylvania is and where it is.
Yeah, it sounds like it's always sounded like a unusual place. It's a bit like people
Yeah,
say they're from Transylvania. You always
yeah,
think of
yeah.
Dracula.
Always, absolutely. I know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I relate to that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Now you moved to a few locations in India, including Kersong near Darjeeling, in the
yeah,
foothills of Mount Everest, where your
yeah.
parents administered a large tea plantation and then moved to
Right.
Calcutta in 1947. But due to
Yeah.
political unrest due to the country's newly stated independence,
Oh,
your
yeah.
parents thought it was too dangerous for the family to stay there. And
Mm.
unfortunately, your father, Albert, moved over to the UK to set things up for your arrival, but tragically passed away before your arrival. Do you
Yeah.
remember what it felt like leaving India to begin a new life in the UK after your family's loss?
Well, it was a bit traumatic, really, because things were kept, hidden, from
Mhm.
us, from
Yes,
the kids mainly. We didn't know how much of what was going on unless we came home to Calcutta we lived in a place called Kurseong, which is up near Darjeeling, right? So that was very secluded area, and we
yeah,
didn't know much was going on because there was unrest everywhere. There was a world war going on,
of
right?
course. Yes, yes,
And then there was unrest in India itself, and that was going on with the war, and then it was the era of Gandhi when
yeah,
he first came onto the scene, and then by 1948, by that time, the British had sort of packed it in and said, you know, the Empire Strikes Back, and
yes,
they said,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so they said anybody who wants to stay in India has to live under all the rules, the new rules of the new India, or
yeah,
you can go back to where you came from, or where you think you came from.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so so
Wow.
so my dad, he said, okay, I'm going to go to England because he had some connections there already, and I'll get things set up. Uh, and then he said, I'm going to send for my mom and the four children, and unfortunately he died, and in England, and
Yeah.
and then suddenly we were left there. But luckily, my mother managed to gather the troops and make it all
Yeah.
work, and we came to. But the sad part about that whole India thing, even though I don't understand everything, it's all in the history books, of course. But
Yeah.
Gandhi, who was a great man and who sorted out the peace and stuff like that, and said,
Yeah.
"Okay, we're going to take India back." And then there was Pakistan. Um, I'm getting hold on, let me just do that. Um, yeah, and then like in 1948, he died. Um,
Wow.
which is I know
Such a tragedy.
it's an amazing history. Yeah,
Of course, of course. But I wanted to mention that because was a very, very tragic loss, and I just wanted to get your feel on that with having to for your mother having to make that decision to say
yeah,
do we still go to
yeah.
to the
England.
UK,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
is a big step. But obviously,
Well, yeah,
you're with you moved here, to the UK to be obviously with your father, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
yes, it's but yes, God bless him. And
Yeah, yeah, I know. It was just a kind of a tragic chain of events, that kind of happened, and you never know. I mean, these days, I mean, even though you never know at all what's going to happen.
yes, of course, of
You know,
course.
so like uh, Yogi Berra, who was a great baseball player. He said
Yes,
it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future. I don't know why.
exactly. It
I don't
is.
know why that's funny, but to me it was
Yeah,
very.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yes, I mean, he chose a wonderful home for you there because in
Yeah,
March 1954, you and the family moved to the UK, residing in
yeah,
the
yeah,
Norbury area of South
yeah.
London. And what was
Right.
it like settling into the UK and starting a new life?
Well, it was it was it was a bit of a shock, to be honest with you, because we'd been living in India. Then, I'd been to various cities in India when it was still called Calcutta. Now it's
Yes,
Kolkata, which is very similar.
yeah,
And Bombay. My mother's father was a doctor in Bombay at the time as well,
right,
but
right,
he passed away, of course. And so. Uh, Generally speaking, except for the Darjeeling thing, uh,
yeah,
the weather was slightly different. So when we arrived at Tilbury Docks on
yeah,
the ship called the Chusan, actually, and
right,
and suddenly it was reality strikes. It was like a
yeah.
cold, wintry day, and you go out on deck and it's freezing. Going, holy shit! What is
That's
this?
right. You're going, oh my
And,
God,
and
what
you
have we
know, and
done?
even though I was only like 14, I do remember it was like and then suddenly we had to assimilate into a whole different world,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the colonial so-called
yeah,
lifestyle was slightly different,
yes,
and so and suddenly, boom, we got to find a school for you, okay, and got to do this, and you got to, and I mean, we didn't speak to the neighbors there, and they didn't speak to us, in the
yeah,
beginning. But pretty
yeah,
soon, it took a few months to kind of slowly, get with what was going on, and the new life. It it took a while, but eventually it was great.
that's right. You'll have went from wearing shorts and t-shirt to wearing like a body
Yes,
warmer and
yeah,
things and
scarves and all
hats.
that stuff. Yeah, absolutely, and overcoats. Yeah, right.
What a massive change! My goodness.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, the
Now
weather's
you,
changing there. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, exactly. Because India, there, it's always the heat is always turned up, and sometimes the heat is really turned up.
Yeah, no, I know. My brother Clive.
Yeah.
He used to live in Spain before he unfortunately passed away. And but every just after Christmas, January, he would take his family and go to Goa. I mean, he was even
Wow.
though he wasn't he didn't spend many years in India, but Goa is a fantastic holiday resort that a lot of people
Yes.
do go to, and so he went there almost every year, and he loved it, on the beach and fantastic weather, etc. Yeah.
That's right. Very picturesque as well. Very luxurious.
Yeah, and it's also a good place to get a knee replacement.
It probably is, yes. Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
he was so he in fact that's what he did. It was really, I know this is
Right.
beside the point, but one day
Yeah.
he said, I'm going to India. He said, I found this great doctor in India,
Right.
in Goa. He said, and he's going to replace both my knees. And I said,
Wow.
what? He said, yeah. He said, I'm going to do my therapy on the beach and the whole thing. And he did
Yeah.
it. And it was perfect.
Wow.
It was perfect. I know, because when he was living in Spain, even
Yeah.
though there was a kind of a national health situation, it was still expensive to have that procedure,
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh no, I'm going to go to Goa. I mean, they've got good doctors there," and off he went. Yeah, amazing.
Wow, amazing.
I know.
And did the knees last long? Were they
Oh yeah,
good?
absolutely. After that, he was walking, he was running. I mean, absolutely, because he's a pretty active guy. He used
Yeah,
to play
yeah, yeah.
play a lot of football and stuff like that, and also he lived in the hills, in um, in Spain, and he
Yeah.
lived like on a hilltop, and he used to take
Right.
the dogs for walks, and up the hills, down the hill, blah blah blah,
Wow.
in the valleys, and
Wow.
and so he was fine. It was a big success. Yeah,
Absolutely amazing. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Don't try that at home, kids.
Do not,
No, do
have
not.
two
No,
knee
no, no.
replacements and then walk up a
That's
hill. No,
that's
don't do
right.
it.
That no, have a bit of a rest first.
Yes. It's like, watch telly,
That's
watch
it.
the telly. Yeah.
That's right. Put your feet up. Now, you attended Heath Clark Grammar School in Croydon,
Yeah.
and this is when your life changed musically. And your friend brought
Yeah.
in a guitar, which you picked up and played. Who
Yeah.
was that friend? And did you stay friends after school?
Ah, that's a very good question. I mean, I do remember that there was a fellow called Hurst,
Right.
and he may have been instrumental,
Right.
manner of speaking.
I like that.
So he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "I have a little guitar," and there it was, this little guitar. No, basically we were all influenced by Bill Haley and the early Elvis stuff, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, following Bill Haley and then all the other great rockers that came out of America. But first, our first influence was Lonnie, Lonnie Donegan, because
Jonathan, yeah.
the skiffle thing, which was a kind of a derivation of American blues, and that was also, they talked about the I'm Alabama bound and the Rock Island Line. You go, what are they talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. That's right.
But
Yeah.
we all sang it. We all went, okay, fine, and off we went, and singing "It Takes a Worried Man," singing a worried song, and so all you needed was a guitar and not even a bass, just the old T-chest thing, used to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was in. So you're right. It's the guitar is a magical sort of instrument, and easy to pick up and play if you can, you try. So yeah, that's what started it all. Yeah.
And of course, in Croydon, you went to see Bill Haley performing live, who inspired you. And what is it like?
Had to.
What was that? What was it particularly that you liked about Bill? Was it
I like the way
whole
they
lot?
I like the way they threw the chairs. No, I'm kidding. It seemed to be I mean, back in the day, I remember that a lot of people, religiously inclined people would call it the devil's music. Back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. They used to think Elvis was like, wow, he's
Oh,
no.
What's he doing, shaking around like that? And
That's right,
that's
shaking
wrong.
his legs and gyrating and things.
Yeah,
I mean, he was.
no, Yeah, that's wrong. That is so wrong.
Yeah,
But eventually everyone was doing it. Of course,
yeah,
there was all. I became one of those guys who was like an Elvis impersonator. Although I
yeah,
couldn't do what he did, but he was a great
yeah.
influence on me. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the guitar came first, and then you learn to play a few chords, and then eventually, if you think you can sing, then you sing along. And you only need three chords to sing a skiffle song. So that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how many. I think it's, the Beatles only know so many chords, so they're in good company
Well,
there.
in those days, to tell you the truth, they came along and they knew more chords than I did. That's a fact. There was no
Yeah.
question. You listen to some of Paul's, guitar, like
Yeah.
Blackbird, and some incredible. I
Oh
mean,
yes, love that.
that
Beautiful song.
that's a complicated chord sequence. That's that,
Definitely
and
is.
very not easy to play. And they were just brilliant. They were like, wow, who are these guys? And they were incredible.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the Beatles and other bands a bit later on.
All
Now,
right.
yeah, yourself together with brothers Peter and Clive formed a skiffle
Yeah,
band called the
yeah,
Fabulous Five and performed
yeah.
at coffee bars and youth clubs around South London.
Yes, we did.
How was the band formed, and what kind of songs did you sing?
Well, we were doing earlier on in the Fabulous Five, we're doing skiffle, which were
Right.
it takes a worried man type stuff.
Yeah.
And then we tried to emulate some of the American blues things as a lot of people did, like the Stones, for instance. Not
That's right.
not that
Yes.
not that we were anywhere close to being as good as those guys. They even in the earlier days. I mean, I'm sure that they were. I don't quite know their sort of early story, but I know they were connected to they loved the American blues. So,
Well, Little Red
but anyway,
Rooster is a one of
yeah,
the big ones that they had, which
yeah,
was real blues, wasn't it?
absolutely, and they were absolute. They were great at it. Fantastic. But in our case, we were just doing what we could, trying to make it as simple as possible, and
Yeah.
then anybody who had a van was in the band. You
Right.
said.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So I remember we had a drummer called Bev, I remember. And I remember he had a place where we could rehearse and he had a van. So he said,
Wow,
I said,
that's a
I
bonus.
said, you are in, that's it, mate. I don't care how you play. You're, and it turned out to be great. It turned out to be absolutely fine, because he's very dedicated and everything and good.
Yeah.
And so we went around to all the local. The furthest we went was like Tunbridge Wells,
Right.
Tunbridge from Croydon,
Yeah.
um, and otherwise we were playing the youth clubs, as you were saying. Yeah, anywhere we could, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It'll have
where it
been great.
started.
It's a great way to start as well, isn't it? Because, doing gigs and things like that, you learn what your audience likes and things like that. Not like just
Yeah,
going in the studio and recording like a lot of
yeah,
people actually did.
that right. And the um, the actual success, it didn't necessarily depend upon how many chords you knew or etc. Because I know there were lots of people out there that would. But it was a matter of, it's like anything. If you get an audience,
Yeah.
that likes you. I mean, and you even in those days, and they'd sort of gather and the word gets around that they're not a bad band. Let's go and have a look,
Yeah.
type of thing. And that
Yeah.
was that's how it starts.
Yeah, yes. Start. Yes, that's the best thing to do. Start off with your live stuff, and then
Yeah,
get yourself in the studio when
yeah,
you've got.
and yeah.
Because some people can't. Some people can go in the studio, do a recording, but then they can't perform live. It's very strange, but it happens.
It certainly does. But then it happens the other way around as well. Suddenly
Yes.
they,
Yeah.
they suddenly they decide they discover that they can sing and that if you start out maybe as a musician and then suddenly you realize my my classic story. I mean, I don't want to bore you with this, but my classic story with a friend of mine who wrote some songs with Barry Manilow, and
Right.
he wrote like Even Now and It's a Miracle and a few things with
Yeah.
Barry back in the day. And
Yes.
he
Yes.
said Barry was a piano player initially, and then
Yeah.
yeah, he started to do commercials and things like that. And then one day he sang a song for a commercial company, and the guy said, "Well, who's that singing?" He said, "Well, that's me."
Yeah.
And because he never got into singing, and then of course eventually he became Bette Midler's musical director. But then
Yes.
pretty soon he discovered his voice, and not only did he discover his voice, everybody else did too, because came out with like Mandy and this, and it was amazing. But he didn't start out thinking I'm going to be a great singer type of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
It was one of those things that evolved, because you suddenly found out, wow, this is working, and suddenly it's one of the one of the most popular voices you're ever going to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then people who decide to form a band then you have to go on stage,
Yeah.
and you got to do something to kind of attract people's attention, um, and uh, and so you do whatever it takes. Yeah,
Now, stardom was beckoning for you and your brothers,
yeah,
but in a twist of fate in 1960, you entered a talent contest, Eden,
yeah,
staged at
yeah.
the Classic Cinema on the King's Road in Chelsea, and in the audience was record producer Philip Waterlove. Please, can you tell
Right.
us what happened next?
Well, what happened next was, well, first of all, what happened before was I was with my girlfriend at the time, like a few days before, and there
Right.
was this newspaper, a magazine or whatever it was, and it advertised Cadbury's drinking chocolate was going
Yeah.
to have a contest in London, and blah blah blah, and etc. And I thought to myself, well, this this looks good. Why don't
Yeah.
I? So I thought, okay. So I decided to go up to London, and I take my and do and I found out what I had to do. What you have to do is be self-contained. So I took a
Right.
little amp that I happened to have, and my guitar,
Yeah.
got dressed up in my best Elvis outfit,
Right.
and then went and entered the contest. And you stood in line, and okay, you're up. Next, you're going to be fifth or whatever
Right.
in
Right.
line. So off I did. I did that, and I sang what I don't even remember what I sang. It could have been like "Don't Be Cruel,"
Right.
or something like that. And then one of my future managers just happened to be in the audience. He had
Wow.
walked from his flat in Chelsea because for some reason.
Right.
In fact, I asked him. He said, "Well, I just had an argument with my wife, and I decided to take a walk.
Uh,
And there's this." He said, "I just walked in. It looked like something was going on in this
yeah.
easy lit. It's had a flat very near the classic cinema, and he walked
Yeah.
in." And apparently he happened to be an A&R man. It's just right time, right place type of thing.
Amazing.
And,
Amazing.
and I mean, how does that happen? It's like the old thing in the old, because they've written songs about it. And a man with a big cigar comes up and says he didn't have a
Yeah.
big cigar, but he was the man. He was an
Yeah.
A&R. He was an A&R guy, and I thought, really? Are you kidding me? And then after I'd won the contest,
Yeah.
he came up to me and he said, "I'd like to have a word with you." He said, "But not now." He said, "I'm going to speak to my partner." And he said, "So, this is this same old story." He said, "Get on the bus and don't talk to anyone."
Great.
Get back to
Great.
my guitar, get back on the bus, right? Then to the
Yeah, yeah.
train, and then back to Norbury. Oh my God. And then 2 days later, I get the phone call,
Wow. That is
yeah,
absolutely
we'd like to.
amazing.
It's just fate, It's just you never know what's going to happen. It's crazy.
Oh my goodness! Now I'll tell you something that we know all about the prize for the contest, which was a contract to promote Cadbury's drinking chocolate. And with
Right.
this win, your first recording was sponsored by Cadbury's chocolate, and the song was called "Hot Chocolate Crazy," an advertising jingle used on Radio Luxembourg, which you wrote. With it went the title Chocolate Time Troubadour. Now, what was it like being announced as the winner? And can you remember how the song went?
Yeah, because I happened to write the song, and I did think that after I'd become the Chocolate Time Troubadour, which is
Yeah,
which is a great honor.
yeah.
You're the Chocolate Time Troubadours. Oh, really? This is great. I'm going, what the hell
That's
is
right.
that?
Add that to your
That was
CV.
just, yeah, I mean, this is not, and I'm thinking, the Chocolate Time Troubadour. And so, okay, uh, what? So anyway, uh, so it just at the time, I was also dabbling around trying to write songs,
Yeah,
and so I came up with the thing, hoping that the Cadburys would use it as like a main commercial. They may have used it once or something way back. I don't recall it ever being played on the radio to really, as it were, because the song
right,
went, "My baby don't care about my kiss, and all she wants is hot chocolate." And
right.
all she's thinking is a hot chocolate drink. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So as you can see, that had the earmarks of success written all over it.
Of course.
So anyway, so my managers to be said, "We got to get rid of this." He said,
Yeah.
"You can't be the chocolate time troubadour." He said,
Duh.
"That's ridiculous." And all this
Yeah,
hot chocolate. And even though they did, I did go into Pi Records at the time, it's called, and
yeah.
they were the A&R guys for Pi Records,
Right,
and so we recorded Hot Chocolate Crazy. It's out there
yeah,
somewhere, and
right.
but nothing ever happened with it. Nothing. So they said we got to move on, and then other things happened after that.
And was it was a lifetime supply of chocolate written in the contract with
No, no,
Cadbury's?
no, no, no. All I was doing was wandering around annoying people in coffee bars, with my guitar. Come a little bit closer. Shut up. I'm trying to drink here. Is that hot chocolate? No, it isn't. Yeah.
Why not? Get it in your
Yeah.
cup. Oh, I'll keep
Yeah.
on playing the song.
Yeah, I was not a very good, troubadour, so called, but I got out of that.
Yeah, yeah.
My managers actually got me out.
And
Sorry about that.
eventually you signed to Decca Records, but was asked to
Right.
have a stage
Yeah.
name instead
Yeah.
of Richard Graham
Yeah.
Sarstedt. Now, did
Right.
you have any say in the name and your image, or did the label and management help with that?
The management helped with that.
Right,
The label didn't really have much say in it because, except for the fact that they said, "Okay, we're going to take you on." So
right,
then my managers, and they trusted my managers because they were already successful in their own way.
right,
Both of them had great success. Well, a lot of success in various uh, parts of the business. In fact, Michael Barclay, he who's no longer with us, but he had some amazing success. I think he even recorded Lonnie,
wow,
and quite other people. Philip, on the other hand, also had radio shows. You know, so they were both quite prolific in their own way. So Decca just probably said, "Well, go ahead, let's go. You got the boy.
yeah,
Let's do." So they were instrument. They actually found the songwriter who was already successful. His name was Johnny Worth, and he'd written a
right.
song for Adam Faith,
Oh
called
my
"What Do You Want?
goodness.
What do you want?" He had written that
Oh
song.
yes, I know that one. Yeah, what do you
What
want if
yeah,
you
what
don't
if you
want?
don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
my
cool.
money? Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Bye, bye.
The
That's right.
Yeah.
I
No, it's
love it.
funny. One word can really make it happen.
It can.
Or the way you say it, whatever.
Yeah,
So so they said, right, we have a new singer here, and we're going to call him Eden Kane. They changed the name, because one of the reasons was because Citizen Kane had been Michael's favorite. They're going, what should we call this bloke?
Yeah.
Richard Sast is not going to work.
Yeah.
So then one of them came up with Kane, which is Michael.
Yeah.
And he said because his favorite movie was Citizen Kane, and
Okay.
so call me Kane. Yeah, and then I guess Philip or someone came up with Eden. That no one knows. That's a mystery. Of
Right.
what, the Garden of. Yeah, no. Aside from that, it just said they wanted to have something that would look good on the marquee. Basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
they said
Yeah.
we need something that's going to look like. Yeah. So that was my understanding anyway. And I'm not at that point. I was happy to do anything, because let's face it, that the what you may call it, the lure of success or whatever you want to call
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
and then you say, okay, what do I have to do? Name it,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right. Because I mean, to be discovered as you
yeah,
were, and then
yeah,
for Decca to take you on, who
yeah,
were even a big label, then with all of
yeah,
the artists that they'd had, and obviously all of the music that they had. So yeah, I
right,
understand where you're coming from there. Now,
yeah,
1 year after recording your Hot Chocolate Crazy release, your debut single for Decca changed your life forever, scoring a
that's right.
UK #1 with
Mm,
Well, I Ask You, which was in the
mhm.
summer of 1961, spending 1 week at the top and 21 weeks on the chart in the UK. Where were you when you found out the news?
I think I was at home in Norbury. And
Right.
because at that point, everything happened so quickly. Once, once something good, something like that does happen, um, they knew more than I did, the managers, and they said, well, we got to get this thing rolling. And
Yeah.
then they started to promote the song. And I didn't know what was going on. They just told me they hired a publicity guy called Michael McGrath, okay, who was in those days was the guy that did the PR, for up and coming people or whoever.
Yeah.
Um, and so they said, okay. And so I was doing all the little promotional things and photo shoots and things. And then I didn't, I wasn't aware that the song was, oh, it's number 42 now, and then it's going to
Yeah.
blah. I somehow didn't, and then eventually they did say, okay, it's climbing the charts, and then I got the phone call in London, said you better listen to the radio. I said,
Wow.
well, what time? He said, right, yeah, coming up at 1 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon. Have a listen, and sure enough, they started to play Well, I Ask You. I thought, oh my God, So it was, yeah, it was like, it was so fast
Yeah.
at the time.
And so surreal as well. I mean, after, I saw that on a later date, you actually appeared on Top of the Pops. But at the time,
Yeah,
there was no such thing as that. There wasn't anything that was on the
no,
television because I
no.
think I think you had things like the Light program on the BBC and things like that. So
Yeah,
you probably
well,
had to
yeah,
listen to Luxembourg or something.
yeah. Well, I must admit that there was something before that in the very late 50s, because that was also a kind of a bit of an influence on me when they
Yeah.
did Jack Good's Oh Boy.
Right. Yes.
And yeah, so there was a period there, like in the very late 50s, at 58, 59, and that's where Marty and Joe and Cliff and a lot of other uh, Billy Fury, of course, and
Yes. Yes.
so there were a few years ahead of me, So 96 by 1961, that show had already been on,
Yeah.
on the telly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was also an influence on me. When I saw Cliff come out and sing "Move It," I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole country went whoa,
Yeah.
here's a
Yeah.
right, and so that came before. Well, I Ask You, yeah.
Yeah, some a great tune it is as well. Well, I ask you as well. Um,
Yeah.
so, did your life change overnight, instantly?
Well, no.
No.
It was it changed in the way. I mean, I wasn't like suddenly moved living at the Savoy,
Yeah, yeah,
No,
right.
no. I mean, I was still in Norbury,
Yeah.
and so that in that respect, but because I did have a hit record, it took a little bit of while, a little bit to say, okay, now we're going to develop the show, get your act together, son. Let's
Yeah.
get our act together, son, and blah blah blah. And then it was the days of Larry Pons, where he had all the
Yes.
his stable of rockers, and they all people who work for, like Billy, for instance. I think Billy
Yeah.
um, did stuff with Larry, and then next thing you know, I was on tour with Billy Fury.
Wow.
It was, yeah.
Amazing.
I know. So that, in that respect, it changed. But my actual life, I didn't suddenly go out and buy a Maserati. Not
Right.
on 20 quid a week.
No, no,
So
no. That's right.
yeah, because
That's right.
the money part of it, as far as the change is concerned, that happened very slowly.
I
to
bet it
get
did
any
as
to
well.
get anything, because your life is controlled by other aspects of the business, type of thing, because you might got to make the investment before you collect.
Of course, because all those millions of records cost a lot of money to press.
They cost money to press, and then there was the expenses,
Distribute them.
expense to record them,
Yeah.
the blah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and
Yeah.
everybody gets a piece of the action. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Now, the famous promoters Larry Pons and Arthur Howe soon had you touring with Cliff Richard, Billy Fury, Joe Brown, Helen
Yeah.
Shapiro, Marty Wilde, who I've spoke to in the past, and he's a great man, John
Oh, it's
Layton,
great.
and of course,
Yeah.
Dusty Springfield, to name but just a few.
Yeah.
What was it like
Yeah.
on the road, and do you have any funny stories to tell about the tours?
Oh gosh, I hate to say it, there are other people who have much funnier stories than me, where,
Right.
where people where they're like they're getting all intimate with the audience, blah blah blah, and then they fall
Yeah.
off the stage, so that sort of thing.
Right. Oh, no.
So yeah, I wonder if you're lonesome. But
That's right.
there are quite a few stories, and of course Joe and Marty, and not so much Cliff. Cliff was very much like the icon. People
Yeah.
looked to Cliff. I did work with Marty, and well, that came later when I was
Yeah.
we on the Solid Gold shows, which was
Right.
down the road, a little bit further along.
Yeah.
But the early days, we were all I worked mainly with Billy and people like Helen Shapiro and places like that, people like that. Dusty came along later because we had the same manager.
Right.
His name was Vic Billings. Yeah.
Right.
So she appeared much later, and then we were together because we had the same manager, and we both had songs together in the charts at the time. One was, she had "I Only Want to Be With You," and
Yes.
I had "Boys Cry."
Where has been your most memorable performance so far?
That's a good one. I think, aside from a performance that I did in Australia, I was on tour with the Searchers and some other people, Roy Orbison, at a different time.
Yeah.
But there's that first tour of Australia. Um, it was probably very instrumental because I'd lost my luggage. I'd had
Wow.
I had all my new outfits and all this kind of stuff ready to go. And we got to Australia, and no luggage.
Oh my
So
goodness.
all I could, the shop, we were staying at this hotel, and there was a gift shop there,
Right.
and I got a t-shirt. Actually, it was a long sleeve striped t-shirt. I said, "Oh,
Right.
this is it. I'm going to have to wear this thing, you know." So instead of the sort of velvet suit and all, you know, that
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
the whole Megillah. And I thought, oh my God, oh shit, this is not good. So
Yeah.
I went on stage and did in the thing, and it went down very well. All of a sudden, they said,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, you know, he's." In other words, the Australian audience, they how shall I put it? They don't like posers, as they say, you know.
Oh
So
yes. Yes. Yes.
if they say, he's a bloody poser, you know, jump in the
That's
pool,
right.
come on, you bloody poser. Yeah,
That's
exactly
right.
type of thing. So somehow I came off as a non-poser,
Which
you
was
know,
a relief to you.
because the audience is just ready, get off, you know, all this kind of, you know, if you come out, you know, and if you can't back it up with a great act, and if
Yeah.
you suddenly look like some sort of dandy, you know, type of thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can't perform, then you're a bloody poser, you know, and that's
That's
so
right.
you
You'd be
can't, you
off.
know, then you're yeah, get off, you know. So, but so happened, you know, and I said to the guy who's to be my manager, I said, "What was all that about?" I said, "It was just great." He said, "Well," he said, you look far more natural, whatever it was, you know,
Yeah.
without."
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, well, that's good. So that was kind of a memorable thing, because it enabled me when things started to get slow down in England because of the
Yeah.
groups, right?
Yeah.
The groups took over, and then the single artists were sort of a bit abandoned in a way.
Yes.
So what do they do? What do these guys do? They either become real estate agents or they go to Australia. So I
That's
went.
right.
So so I went to Australia, yeah, because the guy said, "Well, I've got work for you," you know, blah blah blah. And
Right. Right.
so anyway, so that was pivotal. And the other one was at the Albert Hall, when we did the Albert Hall on one of the tours, and
Wow.
I think it was Marty, Joe, myself, and Brenda Lee was also on, and
Wow. We
and
amazing.
I thought that was great, and she was amazing. Brought her own big band and the whole thing, and and so that was also very memorable. Yeah.
Now, going back to the music and your following singles, Get Lost, Forget Me Not, and I Don't Know Why, were all top 10 hits. But in 1964, as you mentioned there, the Mersey Beat groups, amongst others, were in full swing and threatened the likes of solo artists such as yourself, Del Shannon, and PJ Proby, amongst others. Now, the uncertainty must have been overwhelming for you, the management and the label. How did you cope with that?
Um, Therapy. No.
Yes.
They no, it's just that these things, even though when something happens that quickly, because I do recall in 19 maybe it was 1964, but well, the Beatles came out in 63, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Love Me Do, I think, was 63.
Yeah.
And then the whole Mersey mania, the Mersey side bands and all the groups, everybody sort of suddenly came out, and it was incredible. And I mean, they conquered America as well. But in the meantime, there was all these great songs that the Beatles had come out with, like "Please Please Me," "Love Me," "After Love Me Do," and "She Loves You," and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
remember I was doing a talent. No, it was a beauty contest, I think it was, and
Right.
I was all in my tuxedo and at
Right.
backstage, and one of the judges. I was, Jack the Lad. I was
Yeah.
and then and and I knew that one of the Beatles was going to supposedly show up,
Right.
and and then I'm standing there. I remember standing there backstage, and someone said, "Paul's here." I went, "Who?"
Wow.
Said, "Paul's here," and I said, "Oh, okay." And next thing you know, there's absolute pandemonium.
Wow.
Paul shows up. Paul shows up, and he said, hello, mate," whatever he said. And I
Yeah.
said, "How you doing?" And he's rough and ready. He's not like dressed,
Yeah.
in a tuxedo like me. He's just
Right.
one of the lads. He's just like one of the hello, all right, everyone's just
Yeah. Yeah.
as Paul is, just a great guy and all that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, all right." Next thing you know, there's like a riot going on because he's in the building.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
I thought that, and that's when I sort of thought to myself, well, there goes my career. I said, because it was such a moment of sort of sudden realization that because he represented, like, not only the Beatles, but this
Yeah.
whole new movement
Yes.
of bands, in independent, self-contained bands that sort of, uh, that took over, type of thing. And
That's
I know,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I know that's a bit of a stretch to say that was, but to me that was a very pivotal moment. And I said, well, goodbye, tuxedo. you know,
That's right.
let's.
Yeah.
And then, of course, following that, Beatles came out, but they came out in suits in the first initially, right?
Right.
I mean, they were
Right.
all dressed in the same suit doing the stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the Stones once again, came out with something different.
Yeah.
So
They
that was a
did.
whole nother thing, and it seems to happen every year or every couple of years, something new comes out.
That's right. Keeps people on the toes, and especially the record labels
Yeah,
on the toes as
and the
well.
record business. Yeah, I mean, and now it's God. I mean, it's but the good thing is that, and I'm sure it will always be that people love music. So
That's right. That's right. We absolutely do love it. Now, in 1964, you released the single "Boys Cry" when you signed
yeah,
to Fontana, which was
yeah,
gratefully received by fans and scored as
yeah.
high as number 8 in February of that year and spent 14 weeks on the UK chart. Was it a relief to score another top 10 hit with the arrival of the Beatles, the Stones, and the Animals competing for the top?
Yeah, that was a moment of, where you go, whew.
Yeah.
I thought it was over. I mean,
Yeah.
like, say goodnight, Dick. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so that was a huge moment as well. And it just so happened because I'd changed management by that
Right.
time. Michael and Philip had been together for a while, but then they sort of broke up. They each wanted to do something different rather than manage acts, because at the time they managed a few people,
Right.
myself and a few others. In fact, one of the bands that they managed was, oh God, I wish I could think of the name now. But anyway, Gordon Mills was in it. Gordon Mills, who
Right.
eventually went on to manage Engelbert and Tom Jones. Um,
Right. Wow. Amazing.
so Gordon was in that band, and that's where I first met him. What was the name? Everyone knows this except me. But anyway, so
I would
my
help you out
new
if I knew.
yeah. So my new
Well,
man,
look that one up.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think that not the Kestrel. There was another group called the Kestrels that they managed, but
Right.
these
Right.
guys were a trio of guys. Oh God, I'll think of it in a minute. Everyone's anyway. Anyone who listens to this is going,
It
you
wasn't the
idiot! It's this
birds.
bad. Yeah.
Not the birds. No. No.
No, 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 no. They're British.
Oh, the
A British
British. Right.
band.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
they
That's right.
recorded with a few Americans. So they had a couple of hits, but then Gordon went on to other
Right.
fame and
Okay.
fortune. But anyway, back to the story of so my new manager, a fellow called Vic Billings, who also managed Dusty. So that was
Right.
how I met Dusty, and how
Wow.
we sort of got together. But um, um, no, we were never together, just
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the same room. But
Yeah.
so yeah, and she was fantastic. One of the, if not the best. I mean,
She had it all,
Amazing.
didn't she? Yeah, had it
Yeah.
all.
So she was incredible. Anyway, and so Dusty, so this guy Vic, he said, okay, now that we have this new thing, we're going to go with another record label called Fontana record.
Yeah,
And he said, and then I'm going to someone found a song. I think it was Jack Bavistock, who used to run Fontana Records, and someone
right.
in there found found the song Boys Cry. And they said,
Wow.
you want to record this song? I said, absolutely, let's do it. We did it. And that enabled me to get in on the beginning of all the group things. So then once Boys Cry was a hit, I was on Top of the Pops again and all these
Yes,
other
yeah.
little TV shows, along with the people who were all the new guys, like the Beatles, and the
That's
Animals and
right.
all these. And suddenly I'm in amongst them, this old dude with all these new young guys.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I managed to meet all of them
Yeah,
because
yeah.
of Boys Cry coming out in '64, which was at really the beginning of, I mean, '63 as well, but it
Yeah.
was the beginning of that whole group thing. Yeah,
That's right. And they were all established then as well. So it was just absolutely
yeah,
amazing that you were able
yeah.
to get in the top 10.
I
It was
know.
just
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
amazing.
It was no. I thought
you,
what?
you see,
And,
everything
so
happens for a reason, Eden. Everything happens for a
so they
reason,
say.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes not so good a reason. No, but
No,
this was good. No. I've been lucky. I mean, thank you, Lucky Stars. That was another show. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. That's right. Now, what was your idea? Was it your idea to change direction or the labels when you actually released in 1965, If You Want This Love, which didn't have the commercial success that the previous singles had and was in a different style to what fans were used to?
Yeah. Well, after the advent of the bands and et cetera, and then the solo singers were going, now what? What do we do now? How can we combat this? Um, let's keep going, and if you want to keep going, then we got to do something. We got to do something new. We got to figure out. Maybe we'll join a band. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I was thinking. Yeah, I was wondering what I was going to do. This is in '60 after Boys Cry, and then then I did another song called Rain, Rain, Go Away.
right.
And then nothing happened with that one. And so then it was like, whoa, is it really over? Type of thing.
Yeah,
And so I started to record different things with different people. I think
yeah,
Chris Curtis, who used to be with the Searchers,
right.
and he was the drummer, and he did the very high harmonies. Great
Right.
singer, and he wanted to be a producer as well. So I did a song with him. I'm not sure if it's that one. I think it was, and so I was trying everything. I was going, okay,
Yeah,
let's try something different. Let's
yes.
let's let's go with. So we were just trying different things. Yeah.
Because I tried to look in the Guinness Book of Hit Singles and I couldn't see it. I mean, did they get into the
No,
top, like lower
no, I don't
top
think so.
40,
No,
75 or
it never made it. It just didn't make. Not it wasn't a success at all. But we tried. You just got to keep
of
trying,
course.
and that's what we were trying to do. So in '64, and then before I went to Australia in '67. So those years, I was just basically touring around.
Of course.
Trying to
Well, I've
make
got on here trying to make a living.
trying
Yes,
to make a living. Yeah,
exactly. Because it's a
exactly.
shell shock, isn't it, to the
Yeah, I
system?
mean, yeah. Once you sort of you've had that sort of success,
Hmm.
well, you always have two choices, in life. To be
Yeah,
philosophical, you say so either you do go on and try, or you don't. You know,
yeah,
and I decided I'm going to keep going and try to do something different, and let's see if it works. And as in general, it didn't.
No, but it is a nice it is a nice single in any case. Yes, I haven't got a copy
Yeah.
of that one, but I have got Boys Cry and the other ones.
Right.
But that
Okay.
particular one, I'd never actually heard of that one before until I had a little listen before coming to speak to you today, and I thought that is totally different to this style.
Yeah,
But yes,
it was different.
but
Yeah.
it is good to experiment and
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
what see. I mean, I bet you there's a lot of people that did like the record. A lot of people will have done.
Yeah, all five of them. They loved it. No, I'm kidding.
No, you're being cruel to yourself. now, now in 1966, well, you've said 67, so you're probably right. But you continued to perform and tour, including playing shows in Australia and New Zealand with Roy Orbison, Del Shannon, The Searchers, Peter and Gordon, and also appeared in a live concert at Festival Hall in Melbourne, Australia, alongside PJ Proby, Wayne Fontana, and Dina Lee. How were you all received down under? Apart from that
Yeah.
performance,
Yeah.
when you lost the luggage.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention Dinah Lee, because Dinah Lee was like a huge Australian a girl singer. She was amazing, she was a belter. I think she was like the Brenda Lee of Australia, or whatever.
Wow,
She was great. But
amazing.
then being in Australia with all those, yeah. So that was the next phase of my life, basically, as far as because like the guy who was at the Sydney Stadium back in the day when I did the show, he said, come to Australia and I'll get you plenty of work. But prior to that, there were other tours like with PJ and well, Del Shannon also. I became friends with, and we worked together a few times.
Wow. Yeah.
Incredible character, that guy. He was just amazing guy. So the whole Australian thing and New Zealand, that's a whole different set of venues that
Yeah.
people used to go to, and we'd go to all the different cities, Adelaide and Perth and Melbourne, Sydney. We'd be. It was a set number of sort of gigs. I even went there once with a group called the Pretty Things. That was
Right.
yeah. So then I think Viv set fire to the curtains one night, and we all got thrown out of Australia.
Oh, no. Hilarious.
Well, in not so many words, but we were asked politely to leave.
All right.
But the crazy days. I mean, I don't know. There was a time where this is even pre-punk rock, where it was destructive rock, I should call it. So where people would sort of smash guitars and do all this kind of stuff. I think even the Who did it briefly, didn't they?
They did. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
My generation and all that.
All these still these phases of rock and roll, and now of course it's all different, punk and not punk, but heavy metal and soft metal and anyway. So those Australian days and New Zealand days, they were just like a little set of things that everybody did, if you if you wanted to.
Yeah, and it sounded like you had a great time, and I believe you were given a weekly TV show in Australia.
Yeah.
And what was the show like? And did you have any of your fellow singers or bands performing on the show?
Well, I basically did not have very. We had people come on the show, and it was like a chat show, and then they'd sing then we'd sing a song together, or they would do their own thing, etc. It didn't last too long because I wasn't really, cut out for that.
Right.
I tried, I gave it a shot, because they said, when someone makes you an offer, you say, okay, can I?
Yeah.
You don't turn it down right away. You say, well, okay, I'd like to try it.
Try it, of course.
Yeah. And so I wasn't cut out to be, I found out that I wasn't cut out to be a host of a talk thing and then sing and blah, blah, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of people who did do it very, very successfully, especially in England. Dusty did it, and she
Yes.
was amazing. She was amazing at it. I mean,
Yeah.
it was fantastic. I mean, she had, I don't know how many shows, how many seasons or how many shows she did, but
Yeah.
she had her own show for a while. Yes, some people have that ability. I didn't have that. I couldn't do that. I
Yeah, it's
tried
a
though.
lot to do. Yeah, at least you
Yeah,
tried as well. Yeah, Glenn Campbell
yeah,
did that kind of thing, didn't he? And
yeah,
oh, the list is endless, really. And in
yeah,
the UK,
yeah,
there was Simmer,
yeah. And you know who's really good at it
Lulu.
even now? Even now, uh, uh, Peter Noon. I mean, because
Oh, yes,
he had huge success not only in England but also America. And
that's
so,
right.
that guy, I mean, he's amazing, and he can do that.
Yeah,
He's a great host. He's amazing.
that's right. He's still on the go as well,
He's
Peter
still
Noon.
still doing it, and
I have
still.
been trying to get him on the show, but he's not answering me calls because he's too busy.
Well, he's out.
He's in the States.
He's never stopped, and neither was
No,
Engelbert. And Engelbert,
no,
he
and
did some show.
yeah.
He's still doing it. He's got a podcast or whatever, and he talks to every, amazing.
That's right, and he's not far away from you, I don't think, in LA there, because he's forever in his garden there, and he's
Well,
going,
he comes in.
in his
He comes
swimming
in.
pool.
Oh yeah, he used to. In fact, he bought Jane Mansfield's house way back on Sunset
Right,
Boulevard. It's a
right.
big pink, beautiful, great big
Yeah,
pink
yeah.
mansion, and I remember
Wow.
that a long time ago. And he was recently here at a place called the Saban Theatre, so he's still
Right.
working and still out there. And another incredible situation,
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. An incredible
amazing.
like yourself, because we're going to be talking about your new music in a moment from now. Now, you met your wife in 1964 during your first trip to Australia with a stopover in Los Angeles, California, who was an American journalist by the name of Charlene Groman. And in 1969, after leaving Australia on your way to South Africa, you made another stop in Los Angeles, where you still reside today, where you and Charlene reacquainted, fell in love, and were married that year. Now, your family are all very musical, with your late brother in particular, Peter Starstedt, being in the music business and scoring a number one in 1969 with Where Do You Go To, My Lovely. And your mother and grandmother had formerly been trained in classical music, while your father also played a variety of musical instruments, especially the banjo. And your sister-in-law is none other than the worldwide star of stage, screen, and TV, Stephanie Powers, who has a background in ballet, so I believe. Have you ever thought of doing a duet with Stephanie over the years? As sometimes she sung opposite Robert Wagner in the series Heart to Heart, and of course she did a stunning performance in the cult classic Escape to Athena.
Mm. Yeah,
My
Steph.
mama told me.
I know, I know, and she also did a. I remember Stephanie one day coming back from England, and
Right.
she lives here in Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
and also Kenya, where she has the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. She spends
Oh,
a lot of time
right.
in Kenya. She's a great philanthropist
Yeah.
and another just amazing human being, wonderful person. And Steph, she tells tell the story. She said, "I was doing the King. She said, I was doing the King and I
Yeah.
at the Palladium, and I go to my dressing room, and I'd see Eden Kane's name on it. We
Right.
had been Marty and I and a few other of the group. I think Joe had been at the Palladium to
Right.
honor to honor somebody, and my name was still on the dressing room window and
Wow.
on the dressing room door. They hadn't taken it off, and so that she tells stories. She said, "Bloody hell, there's your name on my bloody dressing room and all this kind of stuff." I go, "Oh my God!" But aside from that, Stephanie is just an incredible character, and
Yeah.
a lovely person. Yeah. So, and all those days of heart to heart and stuff like that, and through her, I managed to meet a lot of great people like William
Yes.
Holden and Natalie Wood as well, and so. And she's coming. Actually, she's coming home. She's coming back
Right.
from Kenya next week, and so she'll be here. So we'll be having dinner, something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. You'll have to show her this interview and ask her what she thinks. I thought I'd
Oh
give her
well,
a
I'll
little
say.
mention there
Yeah,
because
I've
she is
got a couple of questions here for you, Steph. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
but yeah, yeah. So it was quite, it was an amazing thing for that whole thing to happen. The fact
Yeah.
that, um, yeah.
And you
So
met a lot of great people, yeah, due to
yeah,
the
through her,
connection.
actually, as a matter of fact, because she has these little, once in a while she'll have these little soirees
Yeah.
and some very, very interesting people, in over there, because she moves in that sort of, circle of friends,
Yes.
old and new actors, actresses, and directors and people like that. So
That's right. That's people
that's
people
very
in the
interesting.
stage
Very,
and the
yeah,
screen and
yeah,
everything. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's fun.
she's done she's been there and done that. She's done the whole lot,
She's
amazing.
absolutely, yeah. I know. I mean, one day she can. There's pictures, and she doesn't sort of say, "Oh, I'm just doing this," blah blah blah.
No, no.
But but she used to play polo with the Royals, back in the
Wow.
even back in the day. Yeah. Okay.
Wow,
Oh,
amazing.
really? Well, I just went to Costco.
No, no.
That's my
That's
claim.
right.
That's my claim to fame. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I bet you should be really interesting to talk to. You'll have to put a word in Stephanie's ear and say, Phil Wilson
Yes.
wants to have a chat
Yes.
with you.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll tell
yeah,
you what. She is very interesting as well. She's not a
yeah, yeah,
person that just sort of, I can't talk to her because, what am I going to
no,
say to Stephanie Powell? Blah, blah. It's like
yeah,
Brando. I remember he was my favorite back in the day.
yeah.
And I remember in one of his interviews, he said, well, I got to do all the talking, he said, because
Yeah.
nobody knows what to say to me. What are you going to say? I love your work.
Yeah, that's right.
What are you going to
That's
say to
right.
him? Marlon effing Brando. What are you going to say to him?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, I loved you in Mutiny. Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
So he said. So he said, and that's what he said. That's why I don't like to meet people. He said because I have to do all the talking.
Great. But some people get the same old questions as well. But
Yeah,
I'm trying my
yeah,
best not to ask the same
yeah.
old questions. Now,
Right.
some may not know this, but you have appeared in Star Trek series The Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager, and also was featured in other television series such as The Fabulous Columbo,
Mm,
and your real name, Richard Sarstedt. What was the
yeah.
experience like?
Well, I was working for Paramount Pictures for and over like 18 years. I mean, long
Wow.
time because I got in behind the scenes type of thing. I was also I was a stand-in, and then I played various aliens, like Klingons and
Wow.
Borgs,
Amazing.
and that they sort of put me into these outfits, and it was quite amazing. So I feel like I'm part Klingon, but so they eventually I also, having worked behind it, I got to know a few directors and people like that,
Right.
and then because you don't just I never said to myself I'm an actor, I'm going to become an actor, but I said I wouldn't mind getting a few lines here and there in a few bits and pieces. So I knew
Yeah.
someone who in Colombo. It just so happened that I knew the director, and he said, okay, he said, I'm gonna, I want you to read for this particular part in Colombo. It wasn't a big
Okay.
part, but I was great. I was happy to be on it.
Yeah.
As far as Star Trek is concerned, after doing a few alien things and doing some standing in, etc., someone, the producers or the director would say to me, we're going to give you a little part here. We want you to come
Yeah.
and read for this particular part and blah, blah, blah. So I
Yes.
did, and they were very minor, nothing to write home about. So for 8 years on the Next Generation with Patrick Stewart and Jonathan
Amazing.
Frakes and all those, I mean, being on the set with those guys is
Yeah.
they're just an incredible thing. They're so professional, and
Yes.
the great actors. I mean, they all have different personalities, of course, but they're one
Yes.
thing they all do is they know what they have to do, and they
Yes.
act
Yeah.
and do their job, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when they're off time, they've all got a sense of humor. They're all great, So, but I never wanted to be an actor. I really didn't, because I didn't think I had that. I didn't have it in me. But I was okay for a couple of lines, and then eventually, so then after the Star Trek, The Next Generation, that ended
Yeah.
after 8 years. So it
Wow.
seemed to go in 8-year series, and then the next
Yeah.
8 years was Star Trek Voyager with the
Yeah.
female captain Kate Mulgrew,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So then suddenly I'm in that whole deal as well. Usually working with the same guys, the same grips and the same DPs and first ADs and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
eventually they said, "All right, Rick, we're going to give you a part." And it didn't come until the very last. I mean, I'd done a few little bits and pieces in
Yes.
Voyager, nothing to mention. But then they said, "We're going to give you a part. I want you to read for this part where you're an admiral, and
Yeah.
you're on the
Wow.
bridge. You're on the bridge on the final season of Voyager when the Borgs are coming and they're going to destroy mankind, and you're going to be on the bridge. So I helped save mankind." Yeah,
Wow.
right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so there I'm on the bridge. There are 6 Borg vessels approaching, and I had to say these few lines dressed in my admiral's outfit and the whole thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was great. And the director said to me, he said, they might cut this bit out.
Oh, what? Joking.
I said, "Don't what?" He said, "So I tell you what we're going to do." He said, "We're going to do a dolly shot, which is on a on a trolley. So
Right.
it's got a dolly, and we're going to pan. It's going to be the master. And we're going to be, before we do all the overs and the unders and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
close-ups. So we're going to do this shot where
Yeah.
the camera moves slowly all the way across a view, and they'll take it slowly so that all your lines that you say will
Yeah.
be on this long shot, which is the master shot,
Right.
and then that
Right.
way they can't take it out."
Great. That's
So
amazing.
this guy who directed the last episode, and it was just amazing. So that's one of my claims to fame. I had these few lines
Yeah.
on this end of Voyager, the last episode of
Wow.
Voyager. And then they had another
Wow.
4, and then they moved into the next series. That
Yes.
8 years of that one, and then they had this next one, which was called Enterprise, with the
Yeah.
lead. The lead actor was Scott Bakula. He was the
Yes.
captain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that only lasted 4 years. But of course,
Yes.
Scott, being the great actor that Bakula, he also was in Quantum Leap,
He was
which was
indeed.
another.
Yes. He was
Yeah.
the man. Yes.
And
Yes.
now he is the lead in NCIS New Orleans. So
Wow.
that guy's incredible. He's another incredible actor that I was very lucky to work with.
Absolutely amazing stories there.
And
You can absolutely
yeah,
love it. Yeah,
yeah,
you've had a very varied life there, definitely.
very
And
life. Yeah, yes.
yes, it's been absolutely amazing, that story there. I love it. Now, I've got to ask you this. What was it like acting alongside Peter Falk, as he was a great character on and off screen, so I believe?
Well, the strange thing is that Peter Falk lived 2 doors away from my mother-in-law in
Wow.
Beverly Hills. My mother-in-law, so he was 2 doors up the street, and so was James Stewart. Was just 3 doors. He would walk.
Oh, right.
I used to
Wow.
walk down. He used to walk down Roxbury Drive with his two red setters, quite
Right.
Jimmy Stewart. I'm going, holy shit, I can't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
it, type thing. I never spoke to him. Well, I wasn't going to say, Jimmy, can we have a word?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. No.
that's not,
No.
you don't do that to an aging, Jimmy Stewart. But
Yeah,
to me,
yeah,
I
yeah.
still look great. He still look absolutely, this was a long time ago.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Peter Falk, he was there too. He was there up the street. We never saw him at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
Um, but anyway, when I got my lines in Colombo,
Yeah.
I just got to say hello to him, but we didn't have time to have a chat. And
Right.
once again, he's completely immersed in his work and him.
Yeah.
And I come on the scene. I only met him once, just briefly,
Right.
but it was It was the director, who got me the gig,
Yeah.
and so he would, he basically, and it was only like one scene. It was two scenes really,
Right.
but then they shot one scene in one location in the studio, and then they went to another area, but then they could see me in the background.
Right.
He said, you're only supposed to be here for like a day. You're just here for a day to do your
Right.
shot, to do your lines.
Yeah.
He said, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're going to do for you, Rick. I said, what?
Yeah.
He said, well, I'm going to keep you on for another day. He said, because I was getting scale as an actor, But
Yeah,
this guy
yeah. Excellent.
says, I'm going to, because I'd done, um, we'd become friendly, and he said,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep you on because, give you another. So it's all up to these guys as to how much money you make,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
instead of just doing one day's work, I had 2 days work on the show.
Wow.
But with I was
Amazing.
meeting Peter Falk, I just met him once and shook hands and blah, blah, blah. And that was it.
Yeah, but he was a great raconteur kind of
Oh,
thing.
well, I mean, what a character. He's one of the most interesting characters you're ever going to see on TV, and this is what makes a successful show, obviously. You get interested in the character, and he was just amazing. He was, mesmerizing.
Yeah, I saw him in a film which I got on DVD called The Brink's Job, and he's absolutely
Yeah.
hilarious in that. And people
Yeah.
don't realize everyone associates Peter Falk with Columbo, and they're thinking, but when you see him doing his comedy, I mean, apparently
Yeah.
he started in comedy.
Apparently,
So-
because and his character is kind of whimsical in a way.
Yeah.
He's in, and and there was no again, and just one more thing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, like
And then he'd
that.
solve the thing. You can't get anything by Peter Falk because he'll have a second thought somewhere down the line and then turn around.
That's right.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. That's
Yeah.
right. I love it. I love it. Now we're going to fast forward now, Eden, to today, and I'm proud to announce the release of your amazing new single, A Little Bit of a Rock and Roll. Please, can you tell us what it was like writing and recording the song?
Well, I wrote the song because I was looking to write. I think I mentioned this earlier. If you're if you sing rock and roll, and if and then you have and you can write a song, and you think you can write a song, etc., etc., etc. And the fact that I grew up in rock and roll, and I wanted to write a rock and roll song. This happens to be more of a country rock type song,
Yeah.
but because it tells a story, and the story. And I was thinking about, to tell you the truth, I was thinking of one of Brando's films that he was in and also directed. I think the only film he directed, and it's a movie called One-Eyed Jacks, and I love that movie. And I used to be able to quote Brando lines and try to. In fact, we all did. We were all trying to be Brando, and then we'd try to say it, even after the God. Well, after the God, but the early Brando I'm talking about. So he directed the song, and the story of the song, the story of the song is about a Mexican bandit. Actually, it's a guy who walks into a cantina and sees a girl at the bar, and then tries to pick her up and or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But then the bartender says, if you don't, there's a there's a fella thing. I think he's here. He said
Yeah.
he'll kill you if you talk to this girl, to this woman.
Right. Right.
So it's basically that's the story, and then the band comes in because the band is is singing something.
Yeah.
Playing a little bit of rock and roll will do you. Sometimes will do you. So basically, it's a kind of a story song about a guy trying to pick up a girl, but there's a bandit trying to kill him.
It's like something straight out of a Western.
Yeah, and the band is saying, "Shut up! Just a little bit of rock and roll will do you, mate." He said, "You don't worry
That's
about
right.
it. You're not going to be, you're not going to get this girl, but."
That's right. That's right.
Good luck.
Good luck.
So that was the story of the song. So then once you start the song, sometimes they come very easily. A song comes easily, and you think about the chorus, and you go, okay, I'm going to do it, and then you say, okay, everyone writes in different ways,
Yes.
With me, it took quite a while to kind of, figure out, because once you've got a verse and a chorus, then it becomes easier. Then you just got to think of the rest of the words, Yeah.
Yeah, and the single is absolutely amazing, and it
Thank
really is rock and roll, which one of my interviewees, Alan Clark of the Hollies, will absolutely love, as he only
cool.
listens to rock and roll, and I think Marty Wilde is maybe in that club too.
Oh, Marty. As a matter of fact, I did it when I did the last tour. I wrote the song a while ago, and I used to do a little bit of it at the end of my act. And even the band, the Wildcats, they're a great band. And and they said, "Rick, that's a good song." I said, "Oh, okay." And that all this, then I just didn't think about it for a while. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to redo this thing, So I re-recorded it. With a very good friend of mine who was also fairly famous back in this, in this. And when I go to his house, he's got 1,000 platinum gold albums.
Wow,
his name is Michael Lloyd. And so Michael said, okay, we'll do this. I'll produce it and stuff like that. And he said, we'll just have fun with it, and we did.
It does. It absolutely sounds amazing. And I like the way that it is actually recorded in mono, as if it is something that you could put on a record, a vinyl.
Yeah. Nowadays, the things have become more technical, and it seems that back in the day, we're talking 20 years ago. When did the videos first came out? I remember one of the greatest videos I ever saw was "The Lights Are On, You're Not Home." "Addicted to Love."
Addicted to Love. Yes. Robert Palmer.
Robert Palmer. That video was one of the incredible video. It was great. And then all these other. I remember seeing this thing about Billy Joel, and they were talking about how all these songs. As soon as you have a song, you've got to get a video with it.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for way longer than I thought. It's going to be years. And so now it seems to be like an essential sort of thing, And then you've got to have the song has to have certain, megabyte, whatever, for it to be played on certain platforms and certain.
That's
mediums.
right, the bit rate, the quality.
The quality has to be high definition and all this kind of stuff. So it's a new world.
Yes, it sounds great, and I love the video as well. Did you have fun recording the video?
Well, I actually would. I did another video that was kind of a green screen thing as well, but decided not to use that, to do something more real, and something that doing it in the actual studio that I recorded the song.
Right.
and then have some flashbacks of oh, that's who he is, or this is
Yeah,
who we
yeah.
used to be, and all this kind of stuff that for those
Yes.
who remember. But so and as you're going to do it, might as well bring everything into it. All the stuff
Exactly.
that happened in the past. So
That's right. All of the rock and roll there, which you're still rocking and
yeah,
rolling now, Eden. Now,
yeah.
do you have any future music you can tell us about?
No, no, I can't tell you. No, I'm kidding.
You're
The
teasing me.
reason, yeah, no, no, no. This is privileged information. I mean, but it's like it's
Am I
like the
going to get an
Epstein. Yeah,
exclusive, Eden?
all my plans are with the Epstein files. No, cut that out. Cut that
All
one out.
right, we'll cut that out.
No,
Yeah.
it's all hidden away somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it will eventually come out. No, but no. To tell you the truth, I did this for fun. Obviously, the saying because I'm no spring chicken here. It's like, oh, my new career. No, 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 no. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just because it's just uh, if something comes into if it's a figment of your imagination, okay, and you say,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this is an idea, so let's go
Yes.
with it, and
Yeah.
let's see what happens, type thing. And
Yeah. Test the water.
as long as I can still do it, and
Yeah.
I'm not too decrepit, and I can still do it. Might as
You
well do
certainly
it.
can.
And
Yeah.
also, keeps you. You got to keep moving. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. But yes,
yeah,
it's like it was just, I mean, it sounds just, it's Eden Kane in 2025.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah,
There, yeah. It's a pleasure.
yeah.
Now, where can listeners follow you, Eden, and buy your music?
On Spotify, on YouTube, and various other platforms. That's a good question, actually.
But we will
But
list them.
nowadays,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's out there. I mean, and there's my website. I have a website, edenkane.com. So
So all the links to all of your merchandise and everything and all the rest of it down there.
yeah.
That's
That's right.
excellent. That's excellent, Eden. Now, just before you go, I've got a question for you, which I ask everyone. The vinyl revival is here, so I must ask you, what was the first vinyl record you ever bought, and what record would you play me if you had a record player beside you?
Oh, um, well, the early Elvis song. I mean, I loved Hound Dog, of course,
Yeah.
but I also, and also, I recently have become friends with Mike Stoller, who wrote it way back in
Right.
the day.
Wow. Yeah.
So Lieber and Stoller wrote that. But I've got to go with, and if I have to go with an Elvis song because he was my first earlier influence, and that would be "Don't Be Cruel."
Oh,
Um,
excellent choice.
yeah,
Excellent choice.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
that's a first one.
that was so unique, and that bass sound and the whole thing was just mesmerizing. I remember in the youth clubs they'd be playing it and all that, and all of us would be pretending to dance and all that kind of stuff. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
choice there, Eden. Now, it's before you go, I've just got to say thank you so much for joining me on the show. Unfortunately, I've run out of time, but please stick around, Eden, because I'll have a little bit of a chat afterwards. But I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining me. And would you like to come on the show again? Have I frightened you away?
I would love to, and thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thank you.
No problem at all. And finally, please can you introduce your latest single, A Little Bit of Rock and Roll?
Okay, this is Eden Kane, and my new single is A Little Bit of Rock and Roll. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eden, for joining me on the show, and we'll speak to you again soon, hopefully, and all the best with the single. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.